the 3rd to the 6th of June in London, in the UK. In EULAR, there were a total of 14,171 delegates from 132 countries. So that's a small city. There were extra only for EULAR. I think that's amazing. We brought 12 Lupus Europe participants, and we had 4 what we call guests. So people who are not a part of the patient advisory network, but who were there on ground and helped us and also gave us videos and feedback. So we really appreciate all the help that we got. We had 6 abstracts at EULAR with Lupus Europe involvement, and we chaired 3 sessions at the Congress. We attended 66 sessions, which also represented 318 presentations. So 318 of the presentations taking place at EULAR, we had a Lupus Europe person in the room. I think that's amazing. We were invited to speak both at the power sessions and also in the scientific session. So I think that's also amazing, knowing that people are eager to learn from us, both on the patient side, but also on the scientific side. We were, again, a part of the EmuNet and Paris speed dating. So we had some of our patient advisory network members taking part in the speed dating and meeting up with some young EmuNet researchers to speak about research projects, which is really, really nice. Lupus GPT was everywhere. And I think something that was very telling for this Congress was AI was everywhere. And Lupus GPT was the good example, the best in class of information tools. So we were invited to give 2 Meet the EULAR expert sessions on Lupus GPT, which I also think is amazing. So while we were there, we had those 12 Lupus Europe participants and our 4 guests running around representing Lupus Europe, representing the lupus community. And I think we are so lucky to have all these wonderful volunteers spending so much time and energy going around, getting the latest news for everyone so the entire community can be updated. They collected a lot of videos. We will see today, I think it's 24 videos we have for you, but they collected many, many more. We just didn't have time to put them all together yet. So this is a small peek into the videos, and more will come. So please follow our YouTube channel where this webinar will be put, and also where we will have the extra videos put when we are ready to put them up. But now I hope you will enjoy the videos, and I will make an effort to share. Just give me a second. Okay, enjoy the videos.
Hello, my name's Dr. Zoe Rattalocker, and I'm a clinical fellow at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital in London. I've just given a talk at EULAR, which is looking at pain mechanisms in inflammatory arthritis, and I've been asked to summarise it. I think the key points are that pain in inflammatory arthritis is lots of different causes. It's not just inflammation, and we need to be thinking about those when we're treating patients. That the ways that we have of assessing pain at the moment in research, we need to be using lots of ways, including patient-reported outcome measures and potentially quantitative sensory testing. But in clinic, we need to be further validation of ways that we can identify different pain types. And we need to be thinking about these, importantly, from diagnosis so that we can try and prevent pain becoming chronic. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yvonne Lee from Northwestern University in Chicago, and today I spoke about sleep and pain in rheumatic diseases. And the summary of my talk was that sleep problems are very common in patients with rheumatic diseases, and that while we often think about pain causing sleep problems, and it definitely does, if you have like active RA or something like that, that can definitely cause you to have poor sleep or wake you up from sleep. We focused a lot more also on kind of the other direction and sleep problems actually impacting pain. Because there is a data that suggests that people with sleep problems are more likely to have remaining pain later after treatment with, let's say, a disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drug for their rheumatoid arthritis. And so I talked about data showing about that, as well as about data connecting sleep problems with kind of different types of pain mechanisms, particularly mechanisms that are regulated by the brain and spinal cord, so centrally mediated mechanisms that increase pain sensitivity and then therefore increase pain. Thinking really about how both pain can cause sleep, but also how sleep can cause pain, and how it's important to treat the sleep either by evaluating the patient, making sure their inflammatory disease is controlled, looking at their medications and what causes potentially sleep disruptions there, looking at their comorbidities such as depression, and then actually actively managing their sleep by talking about things that they can do to improve their sleep, sleeping at the same time every day, waking up at the same time every day, making sure that their bed is only for sleep and not for scrolling on your phone or other things like that. And just making sure that patients have the resources to manage both their sleep and their pain.
I'm an advanced nurse practitioner based in Ireland, and I have a strong interest in menopause and rheumatic disease. And my big interest is the consultation and getting it into the consultation and opening up the questions. So I want to put it forward that menopause is the variable whose time has come, and I want it to be spoken about within the consultation process. I know, and hello to everyone on this channel with lupus, that it is a big question for you in the lupus community and the concerns around clotting. I have been putting my feelers out and speaking to hematologists and that to try and get their angle on it as well, because we need all the different collaborations from all those people who have an interest, and we need them on board to give us the information so that we can share it with our patients and with our clinicians. So I suppose I'm saying to you to open up that question, ask the question, could this be menopause? You know, if they're saying to you, my bloods are okay, they can't see anything on your joints, your lupus is quiet, even if they've done a dipstick of your urine and your urine is quiet, that there's nothing to see, and you still don't feel quite right, your fatigue is different, your stiffness is different, your pain is different. Ask the question, my age, could it be that it could be menopause? And even if you feel that you're too young to have menopause, just ask the question. It's never, everybody's different, and it could be starting at a different time. So open up that question and ask it.
Hi, so we're here at EULAR, and this poster here represents a work that was co-developed with Lupus Europe, which I'm very, very proud to present. And as you can see, its value is multiplied by 4. Right? And I'm sure that after you hear this interview, you think of its value as much, much higher than that even. So essentially, if you look at the social determinants of health, and how they impact the outcomes of those patients, you realize that you need to start thinking about solutions. Now, at a very, very local level, we try to approach this by looking for those solutions, you know, in a very old-fashioned way. So, patients, association, international volunteers, they looked online in the area of my little hospital there were any resources available to address the vulnerabilities that we identified. And they found hundreds of them. It was amazing. Now, it doesn't just matter that you find supposed resources. You need to verify them. And that they did as well here. So people independently called contact their person to ascertain if the resources were available or not for the eligibility criteria. I'm very, very thankful for this work as well. So now we have this list with hundreds of resources. And we know which vulnerabilities may potentially be helped by that research. So now, whenever I identify results, I try and connect my patients with this research. Now, the implementation is only just beginning. we have the experience with only a handful of patients. And I can tell you that it is not enough to just have a solution. We found that even when you identify the solution, some patients cannot really access it, or some of the solutions are misrepresented. So in practical terms, it means they do not exist. So now this is another barrier that we must into scientific practically with the help of Lupus Europe and all of their wonderful Thank you.
So my name is Diana Vranish. I'm a clinical psychologist and I work in the North Bristol NHS Trust. I provide psychological support to people who live with autoimmune rheumatic diseases such as inflammatory arthritis and connective tissue disease. And I think when we talk about the psychosocial support, it is important just to be aware of the biopsychosocial model and how important psychological and social factors are, because the psychological and the social factors combine with biology to cause illness. So they are important, they contribute to the development of symptoms, but they also contribute in many powerful ways to the reduction of symptoms, which is great news because that means that if we tackle these things, if we can improve mood or sleep, that if we can decrease levels of stress, if we can increase the levels of psychological, social, emotional support, that can in many cases help to keep symptoms at bay. I think it's tricky with connective tissue diseases because a lot of the clinicians struggle to differentiate whether the neuropsychiatric symptoms are a consequence of the lesions of the central nervous system or are just linked to the stress that goes hand in hand with the life with chronic illness and chronic fatigue. And also medication can have adverse effects. But I think that if we ask in our first encounter with a patient, if we ask these questions, we ask about all these psychological and social factors that may be contributing to their symptoms. We allow them to talk about their experience. We allow them to talk about their emotions. We allow them to have that safe space where they will be able to tell their story and maybe seek for some additional support.
Hello, my name is Sophie Diem, and today I spoke about exercise and physical therapy in patients with connective tissue diseases. And we spoke about that persons who live with those diseases exercise less than the general population, and it is important to advocate for getting them to exercise training. Those trainings are proven effective in multiple disease outcomes, although the quality of the studies is low. And I think it is most important that they receive personalized interventions in which the physical therapist also receive training through, for example, an online e-learning. So that's what I would like to say.
I had a presentation in the non-pharmacological intervention section, and I was talking about how important it is from a patient point of view to have non-pharmacological treatments as well, and how big of a role that plays for patients. It's important, of course, that we keep physical health and that we exercise. It's also important that we stop smoking, that we avoid the sun, that we have mental support. It's very nice to say all those things, but we don't always have access to them, that's one thing. And we don't always know how to do it. And sometimes we're afraid to start exercising because we have pain. We need adapted exercises specifically for that individual patient. Specifically also in lupus, where the disease is so heterogeneous. No two lupus patients are the same. They don't need the same support. They need different things. So making sure that we accommodate those differences and make sure that we have programs and educational programs and mental support that fits all different patients is really important. So the healthcare professionals can actually do quite a lot in that sense. They can listen to the patient, be empathetic, make sure that whatever recommendations they have are actually realistic for patients to do. I think that's very important. And that was my message today. Make sure that your goals are realistic, that you discuss it with your patient, and that you make sure that they can actually do the things you want them to do.
So my name is Yanis Parodis. I'm a rheumatologist at the Karolinska Hospital in Sweden, in Stockholm. And today I gave a talk on the non-pharmacological management of systemic sclerosis and lupus. And the main essence of this was that non-pharmacological management should become more explicit, because that's the only way to make it a part of routine care for these patients. We talked about how it must be person-centered, so tailored to the patient's needs and expectations, and how it should be participatory, so it should include the patients, how we can improve outcomes with patient education, so the patients need to learn more about the diseases, about the treatments, and this will help them also feel more ready for shared decision making, because we talk about decision making, but if you ask the patients, many times they will tell you, I don't have the readiness for shared decision making because I don't feel that I am sufficiently educated. So patient education is important. Also, we should not underestimate the importance of psychosocial interventions, because this can indeed mitigate anxiety, depressive symptoms, mood disorders. It is important with exercise, physical activity and physical exercise, both for lupus and for systemic sclerosis. When it comes to lupus, photoprotection is very important. When it comes to systemic sclerosis, actually both diseases, but especially for systemic sclerosis, cold avoidance, especially in patients who have severe Raynaud's phenomenon. We also talked about smoking cessation in patients who smoke, to really assess this, identify the need to quit smoking. So this was somehow the essence. And another important boundary is that non-pharmacological management should not substitute for pharmacotherapy when pharmacotherapy is required. So it should be an adjunct to pharmacotherapy, but not a substitute for pharmacotherapy.
I'm Marta Mosca. I'm a rheumatologist in Pisa, and I coordinate the European Reference Network RECONNECT, which is a European project for rare and complex diseases. Today I talked about the holistic care for patients with rheumatic diseases, discussing the importance of acknowledging the differences of vision between clinicians and patients, which actually are part of the same picture. So we need to develop a system that takes into account the clinician view and the patient view to give a better care to our patients and put the patient at the center of this project. Listening to patients, listening to their needs, using narrative medicine to better develop patient pathways and try really to give them the better care, not only to treat active diseases, but really to take into account all the issues that patients with such complex diseases face in their lives.
So the study I presented at the Congress was aimed to understand if people with RMDs know information about cardiovascular risk in their condition. Because we know from scientific publications that patients with inflammatory RMDs have a higher cardiovascular risk, but we do not know the other side. So we do not know the patient perspective. What we did was to co-develop with patient research partner a survey in English, translated into 9 languages, distributed via patient associations. We collected almost 1,000 responses, and it emerged that regardless of the geographic area, many patients have no clue about the cardiovascular diseases that can happen together with RMDs. They did not discuss about this with their doctors, and they are also worried that this is a very complicated topic, and so there is also a very low self-rating of being informed on this topic. So what we plan to do is to start from this project and really try to build tailored and specific educational campaigns for patients to make sure that everyone in Europe is aware and is he knows actually about the cardiovascular risk, how to recognize it, how to manage it, and how to prevent cardiovascular diseases.
Hello. Today we talked about arterial stiffness in patients with systemic lupus erythematosus, patients with diabetes mellitus, rheumatoid arthritis, and health controls. As we know, arterial stiffness is an established predictor of cardiovascular disease and all-cause mortality in the general population and in high cardiovascular risk diseases such as diabetes mellitus. But however, data in SLE versus other high-risk rheumatic diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and non-rheumatic diseases are scarce. So our study aimed to compare the prevalence of arterial stiffness in patients with SLE versus patients with rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes mellitus, and health controls, and to find predictors of arterial stiffness, including traditional cardiovascular disease predictors and the disease-related predictors and atherosclerotic plaque presence. So we found that arterial stiffness was higher in patients with SLE and was comparable to patients with rheumatoid arthritis, and that was a significant finding in our study, that arterial stiffness should be checked in patients with SLE, even those that are young and a low cardiovascular risk.
Dear patients, hi, my name is Mark Schellinger. I'm a rheumatologist in Strasbourg, France. And today we discussed in a session the role of blood platelets in autoimmune disease. We all know that blood platelets are involved in coagulation when we cut ourselves. However, what is less known is that these blood cells are also involved in the inflammation in autoimmune disease and participate to the risk of myocardial infarction and tissue damage. And we believe that better understanding this, but also developing new drugs to target platelets could improve the management of lupus and other autoimmune disease. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Esti Loza, and I'm a rheumatologist from Spain. And I've been working for many years in the implementation science, and I have spoken about implementation strategies. So, in summary, I have to say that in daily practice, we have many documents, we have evidence on how to treat patients in the best way. We have the best evidence, the best processes, etc. However, we also know that in daily practice, many healthcare professionals, we don't use this evidence. So, and this means that we are not providing the best care for patients. So what can we do? Two important things. First, we have to sit down and think, where are the problems? And once we have identified the problems, then we have to look for solutions. We do this, for example, as a contextual analysis. And in a contextual analysis, we analyze what is the problem. Maybe the doctors are not aware of this recommendation, or maybe the fellows don't know how to use this drug or to fill this questionnaire. So then, depending on the problem, we can select the solution, and the solution could be an implementation strategy. So if we use this implementation strategy, we will solve these problems, and at the end, we will be using all of the recommendations to improve lupus patients' care.
My name is Michael. I'm a patient representative from Austria. I support young people and families with children and rheumatic diseases. I'm also in EULAR Congress, and I had the pleasure of hosting the Power Fishbowl session this year, which is a great interactive format. This year it was on young people taking the lead and transforming rheumatology care and research. So it's quite difficult to bring up people into the Congress, of course. Ideally, this is what we would do and listen to them live. But instead, we had to bring all the people in to talk for them. So we had someone talk about involving children in research, which was super interesting. And it's very, very needed, because what we think that they might want is not exactly what they really want. So that's super important. We had a young person who's the youth leader in EULAR Congress. She told us about transition and the importance of all of that. We had someone from HBR who had the great idea of bringing in young people, not only from the patient side, but also from the HBR side and young doctors, to see, what the expectations are also from this kind of group. That was fantastic. And we had a physician who introduced us to a program they're running in France, which is also really exciting, that really tries to engage young people to come to the clinic, to engage with the doctor, to engage with the disease, because they find that people often don't turn up for their appointments, etc. So they're very, very successful with that and having communication channels. So that was the outline. That was only a very short presentation. And then afterwards in the fishbowl, really anyone can come up, sit in the chair and discuss these topics. And that's what happened. And probably for about an hour long, we just discussed all these topics about young people, what they might want and need, and how we can take that into account. That was really the main thing, that we could go away and say, okay, we need to communicate better with them. We need to listen. We need to adapt the ways that we, as organizations, be it patient organizations or hospitals, doctors, HPRs, interact with them. So that was really the main goal, and I think we were quite successful in achieving that.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to share my 3 biggest takeaways from EULAR 2026 in London. First, the personalized medicine is no longer just a future, it's becoming reality. We saw exciting research showing how treatments are becoming more tailored to each person's disease, bringing us closer to truly individualized lupus care. Second, patients are no longer just participants in healthcare, we're becoming partners. Throughout EULAR, it was inspiring to see patients actively involved in research, innovation, and shaping healthcare decisions. And finally, artificial intelligence is going to transform rheumatology. AI has huge potential to improve diagnosis and treatment, but one message was very, very clear. Technology should support, not replace the relationship between patients and healthcare professionals. For me, EULAR 2026 showed that the future of rheumatology is built on personalized care, innovation, and meaningful patient partnerships. And that's something to be really, really, really excited about.
Hello, my name is Yuichi Maeda. I previously postdoc of Professor Georg Lab in Germany for 3 years. Now I went back to Japan and associate professor of Osaka University. So today I presented my research work focusing on the gut microbiome changes and fecal IgA changes during CAR T-cell therapy in autoimmune diseases. Our finding is that or diversity did not change, but specific bacteria, specific pathogenic bacteria such as Streptococcus, marked reduction after the therapy. And also the fecal IgA levels decreased after the therapy, and lower fecal IgA at the baseline could be the predictors of later delayed B-cell recovery.
Hello, I'm Ingrid. I'm chairwoman of the CEB-Liga, who represents patients in the Flemish part of Belgium with lupus, Sjögren, systemic sclerosis, vasculitis, myositis, and MCTD. I did this project to raise awareness for lupus, and we did it in hospitals by using a holobox. A holobox is a device which can touch the screen for questions, and video reflection of it answers it, and people are very curious about it and are very interested in using the holobox.
Hi, my name is Juan Pablo. I'm from Mexico, and we did this study it's called Screening of Body Shape and Sexual Health in Patients with Rheumatic Disease. And this study, our objective was evaluate and describe the body image perceptions of patients with rheumatic diseases. And we use a study with two types of questionnaires, the BSQ questionnaires that evaluate the body image and the assays that evaluate the sexual dysfunction. And in a total of 354 patients, we identified 33% of patients with body distortions. And these distortions was associated with younger age in patients with lower education, patient with, well, specifically in women, premenopausal women, and it was associated with lower sexual activity. So we don't identify a difference in sexual dysfunction in patients with and without body distortion. So we suggest that the sexual dysfunction can be affected by the body shape and body distortion alterations.
Hello there, my name is Richard Beasley. I'm from Juvenile Arthritis Research, which is a patient organisation supporting children, young people and adults with JIA, and we're based in the UK. And so I've been speaking this afternoon about the role of family members and carers and informal carers in helping to educate healthcare professionals, and particularly talking about how they can get involved through informal networks, through talking at patient appointments, so having a family member come along at a patient appointment, taking part in seminars and webinars, helping in informal settings, and the impact that can have on healthcare professionals in developing their own skills to understand what it's like to live with a rheumatic condition. Often healthcare professionals know all the technical things, they know what it's like in a textbook, but they don't hear from patients about what that impact is. So whether you can go to work, whether you can go to school, what impact it's having on your health and your well-being on a day-to-day basis. And it's really important they listen to family members, to carers, to parents, to partners and to patients, so they can provide a better service overall so it meets the needs of an individual patient.
Good afternoon. I'm Valentina Passan, a clinical nurse researcher working at Rheumatology Clinic of Udine Teaching Hospital. I'm here to present our research. It's a phenomenologic study about the experience and needs of caregivers. When we think about inflammatory arthritis, usually our attention is working on disease, pain, but behind the patients there is someone who takes care of them and continues balance their daily lives, needs, and the perspective for the future. We're talking about caregivers. Caregivers are an explored member of care team, and they need to be more explored in order to better understand their needs and maintain the sustainability of the new role. Our research in our research we interviewed 25 caregivers. The majority of them were female spouses. The age range between 31 and 84 years old, and many of them still working while they taking care of their deceased. Our findings tell us that for caregivers, the illness represents a very crucial experience. It disrupted their life. Their life completely changed because they need to live between the balance of autonomy, resilience, and the continuous challenging. The results and uncertainty of disease and also the uncertainty of treatment often represent a big challenge for the caregivers. They also be overwhelmed and emotionally exposed. For many of them, especially the youngest, it's important to maintain their perspective of the future, thinking ahead, while for the oldest, it's very difficult to think about the future because the illness is emotionally overwhelmed. It's important also maintain and include our leaders in the team. And as a care professional, we need to provide them tailored support, more educational intervention, support them in order to avoid the feeling of loneliness. And also involve them in our care team as a partner, not just only as an observer or a secondary part of the care team. Thank you very much.
So I'm Melina Bouteille. I'm a master student in the lab of Eric Bollard with the University Laval in Quebec City in Canada. I work on lupus nephritis, with affect 50% of lupus patients, and I look at the role of the 12-lipoxygenase, which is an enzyme in the lupus nephritis, and we determine that the 12-lipoxygenase can protect against the lupus nephritis in our mouse model.
So, hello, my name is Jun Jiepeng. I'm a postdoc at University College London in the United Kingdom. And so in this study, we've used alternative profilings of juvenile onset lupus patients, and we try to identify which of the patients are likely gonna progress with a higher risk of atherosclerosis progressions, and which patients are likely to be statin responsive or non-responsive. And so in our study, we've identified 6 autoantibodies in the placebo arms that is able to successfully stratify the patients into high-risk groups and low-risk groups. And we also identified 8 autoantibodies in the statin arms to predict whether they are statin responsive or non-responsive.
Hi, my name is Chris Marty. I'm a physiotherapist and also the chair of the Arthritis and Musculoskeletal Alliance. I'm talking here at EULAR about the gut microbiome in rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases. And it's a really interesting topic. My talk touched on how diet, exercise, and sleep are all important factors and lifestyle factors to try and influence the gut microbiome, these bacteria that are within our gut and possibly have an impact on our health and disease. It's certainly an emerging topic of research. There's a growing body of evidence. But for me as a physiotherapist, I'm really curious to understand more about this, and I shared with the delegates today.
Nice ending, right? So, apart from all these people who have been recording the videos, and a huge thank you to every one of you, I also want to really give a big thank you to all the physicians, all the healthcare professionals, all the patients who were interviewed. And we had many more than you saw here. As I said, they will come online later. And apologize for the bad sound. It's very difficult to record good audio in a Congress, but we hope the subtitles helped. And the one video where there were no subtitles, that's actually going to be changed on YouTube. So when you find it on YouTube, there will be subtitles. But apart from this, all these wonderful people have agreed to give us their top 3 takeaways from EULAR and what they experienced. So you are on the call today. I would like to start with Aldovina. Could you give us your top 3 takeaways from EULAR?
Okay. I was very happy to attend EULAR, and for the 4th time as a Lupus Europe patient representative. And each year I feel more and more confident. And this year I conducted 7 interviews with experts and researchers. What impressed me most of all was how willing they were to speak with patients, even when they are bad, had very little time. One special moment was when Mark Scherlinger, I might pronounce wrongly, from France, Strasbourg, told me that he would make the time for an interview because of the important work of Lupus Europe. It made me feel proud to be part of this community. So it was really important. The second one, it was good sleep can help reduce pain. So it was the most important topic for me. So one of the most interesting topics for me was the connection between sleep and pain. I learned that poor sleep can increase pain, while good quality sleep can help reduce it significantly. So this was an important message because it shows that improving sleep can be an important part of living better with a chronic disease like lupus. So I suppose that it is a very important message for all lupus patients. And the third is EULAR is a unique place to learn and share. It is impossible to mention all interesting presentations and new research shared during the Congress. EULAR offers an incredible opportunity to learn about the latest developments in rheumatology. I also enjoyed spending time at the Lupus Europe booth when we met patients, doctors, researchers, nurses, and many other visitors. It was a great opportunity to share information, raise awareness, and connect with people who care about improving the lives of people living with lupus. So my overall feeling after EULAR is simple. I learned a lot, met inspiring people, felt proud to be a member of lupus and to represent our lupus patients community. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you, Aldivina. Those were wonderful words. Usually I always go last when we do things like this, and I think I would like to go next. So my top 3 takeaways. Both Zoe and I were running around to meetings all the time, but in those meetings we had some really interesting discussions, both with healthcare professionals, with the sponsors behind that also sponsored Lupus Europe, and also with institutions who want to do projects together with Lupus Europe. So we have a lot of new exciting projects and some continuation of some older projects, which you will learn more about in the time to come. So you can look forward to that. Apart from that, I think one thing that was very, very prominent and spoken about a lot was CAR T-cell therapies and the T-cell regulators, which is the newest in the research area and also for lupus. We're beginning to see some long-term results of those clinical trials going on, which shows that although it does work for some, it can reset the immune system. For some patients, it stops working after some time. So it might stop after 3 to 6 months. For some, it stops after a year. And the big discussion is, what do we do about those patients? Do we give them another treatment with CAR T? Do we go back to the products they got before? How do we handle that? That's a big discussion among researchers and physicians at the moment because it's difficult for them to choose. Another thing that was also mentioned by other people in the video was AI. AI was everywhere, and it's definitely here to stay. Both scientifically, where AI can be used in registries and looking at images, at identifying clusters of symptoms or even biomarkers for treatment, also identifying patients earlier so we can start treatment earlier. But it also is good for information. So like we do with Lupus GPT, giving patient-relevant information. So those, I think we're seeing more and more of those tools, and it's really exciting to be a part of that journey. We also saw some people developing further on those tools to create clinical trials finders, for instance, with AI, So there's really no end to the possibilities of AI. And I think we have many interesting things to see coming. Lastly, I would like to say I really, really, really loved the Lupus Europe community. The sense of coherence and the sense of being a family was so prominent. It was wonderful to spend time with all you wonderful people and looking at all the things that you brought back and the excitement I could feel among you about the research, about meeting other patient organizations. That's always so amazing to see. And EULAR is a great opportunity to meet with all the different stakeholders. So that was a bit of feedback from me. Another person who is always last when we do this is Zoe. So Zoe, will you give us your feedback? You're actually still muted. We can't hear you. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
See, I was trying to escape and say no, and it didn't want to transmit that.
No.
So,
You're
thank
not
you
getting
so
out
much.
of it.
No, thank you. So, like Jeanette, I actually had many meetings in the background. So I really wasn't able to go to any sessions other than the ones I was presenting in. What I have done is I've started watching some of the sessions on catch up, which everyone who was registered for the Congress is actually able to do, which is really, really great. I've already watched the session on unpacking environmental drivers of RMD pathogenesis, activity and research. That has been very interesting. But really that was on catch up, so that wasn't on the ground at the actual Congress. And I think my 3 key takeaways from the Congress itself are a bit different. So I think Lupus Europe showed up very, very strongly. And it showed up as not just an organization attending a Congress, but an organization actively contributing to the lupus conversation, actively contributing to the science in a major Congress. I think across EULAR, we were present in sessions, presentations, interviews, poster discussions, fistballs, conversations at the booth, informal meetings, formal meetings with researchers, and really the wider community as well. That was certainly visible, but that wasn't the issue. It was that people were there to learn. People were there to ask questions. People were there not as a symbolic patient voice in the corner or in the background, but playing a really, really active role. Now, as a second part, I can talk about Lupus GPT to no end, but I won't do that. I will say that I had the privilege to give 2 presentations at EULAR. One was on Lupus GPT itself, and another one was on a patient panel that Lupus Europe ran in Portugal. And thinking about this, I think one of the common themes across both presentations was that access for patients is a lot more than simply making something available for them. So thinking about the Lupus GPT question, the question wasn't, does reliable lupus information exist? It's whether people can actually reach it in their own language at their own moment of need in a form that they can actually use and understand. And when I think about the other presentation for the Portuguese panel, the same kind of access issue appears, but from another direction, which is that people may have a doctor, they may have a hospital, but they might still face quite a lot of barriers around transport and money and health literacy, isolation, stigma, and whatnot. So for me, I think a key takeaway from the Congress is that access is a bridge, and it's a bridge that we have to keep asking who is outside of, who is outside the room, who is outside the bridge. What must we still build so that we can reach those people? And it's absolutely incredible that we get to talk about things like that with doctors and HCPs at major congresses and to think together about how we can work to improve things for patients. So that's certainly a takeaway. Jeanette, you already mentioned the Lupus Europe community, but this is really a highlight for me too. It was the strength of the community itself, the work that every single person on the ground did. In everything that they did, from chairing to interviewing to listening to caring things and setting up the booth to making people feel welcome, to keeping going when everybody was just exhausted, really. But really, it's what we're doing now as well, that every person on the ground helped turn EULAR into this joint learning. And this is a learning that we get to share with the community through things like this webinar. Because EULAR is a beast really that nobody here can hold it alone, but we join together, We were in different rooms together. We were in different sessions together, asking different questions in different meetings with different perspectives. And that really means we can bring back a more complete picture for the community. I also have to say, Lena, who was in the background, did wonderful work throughout the Congress, running around endlessly. Nuria, who is here and is quiet, and I think would like to stay quiet, without whom we would not have had this incredible social media presence that Lupus Europe had throughout the Congress, but also this webinar today, and the videos that you saw. So the work behind the scenes is incredible, and goes without saying of the tireless work of the board and of Jeanette, who was everywhere at the same time, everywhere. So I think for me, it's that we're not just present in spaces like EULAR, we're actually actively working in spaces like EULAR, we're shaping spaces like EULAR. And our work, it's a little bit about building bridges, right? So it's between science and daily life, information and understanding, doctors and patient organizations, Congress conversations in the wider community. And the point now is to just keep bringing back things to the community. And all of them really bridges that are useful for the patient community beyond the Congress, beyond this webinar. So those were my takeaways. And thank you all so very much. And I'll go back to hiding now.
Go back to hiding, that's okay. Thank you so much, Zoe. And not to forget, the one who was pulling all the threads, who were connecting all the dots, is Zoe in the background. She really made it possible for all of us to participate in all the different sessions. So thank you so much for doing all that work, Zoe. So next up, I think we would like to hear from Rita. Rita, could you give us your top 3 takeaways?
Sure. I'm going to give you some highlights on mostly Paris sessions that I really enjoy, because this conference has a different ring to it, because we get to meet a lot of different patients and patient advocates for other diseases, and we can find bridges together. And one of the sessions that I would like to highlight, it's the one that was presented by one of the members of Lupus Europe, in specifically the youth group. So we got to present in a poster presentation a co-designed webinar on the sex and lupus. So it was very interesting to showcase what we did and that it worked, and how can other associations and national groups adopt from this. Still on the topic of youth people, we got to participate in a very interesting fishbowl that was on youth people taking the lead, transforming rheumatology case and research. And we discussed so many different topics, and we got to brainstorm so many different subjects that I really think that we should deep dive more specifically on each subtopics in future conferences and events like this. Namely, we touch as well on sexuality, fertility, children, the change of care from children to adulthood, and the changes and adaptations needed today. So very interesting to discuss this and see that this is an important topic to discuss, and to not be on the shadows as normally is. And lastly, and it was referred, the presence of AI. I got to be participate on a roundtable like session where we got to discuss with doctors the impact of AI, how could we perceive it as patients, AI in terms of monitoring disease activity, also discovery and diagnose, and also to get information. And gladly, Lupus GPT was mentioned as one of the tools that is already used, and it's a success case. So it was very rewarding to see that other patient organizations already come to Lupus GPT as a tool of reference. So I think these are the highlights, but generally all the community spirit, it was really great to have all Lupus Europe team there, but also to meet and engage with other patient organizations, but also all the community related to the rheumatology.
Thank you so much, Rita. Yeah, that was amazing, and great presentation on the youth group, your webinar. That was really wonderful to have you there. So next up is Anne-Marie.
Okay, and now the elderly people are coming
Going
in.
from the very young to the more experienced, I would say.
More experience, yes. This was my second time at EULAR. I was still a bit lost, but I find my way more than last year. And I have a bit of problem with the time difference. I missed one important session. But about bridges and AI, I went to a session on communication and communication between patients and doctors. And some sessions were about not AI related, because there was one doctor who talked about how you can see your disease as when a friend brings you a cat and the cat moves in and you don't like cats. So the first week the cat will ruin your house, and then you change your house, and then the cat will be there and you live with the cat. And then the patient come back the next week, and then he said, you told me about the cat, and now I know how to adapt my life to live with my disease. So it's a different way using AI, but just like the old do, just talking to each other. And there was another woman from Japan, and she had really a lovely, I don't know how to call it lovely, but it was an education program made with the manga. And it was like to improve health literacy for young people. And that was very interesting, and she needs funding to release it around all the world. It's only available in Japan at this moment, but it's very interesting. And there was a lot of talk about AI, large language models, and I learned a lot more large language models, but I only use ChatGPT, but there's so much more. But yes, I'm old. And one thing is, the doctor and the patient, they say the same thing, but they say it in different sentences. So there needs to be more effort between the patients and the doctors to be on the same level. And then at the last day, I went to Humanet Meets Para, and guess what? It was about health literacy and equity in the AI era, and trust and data governance, transparency, and acceptable use of AI. And we had a very fruitful conversations. We were Lupus Europe community was very present, and we were very eager to say we should be careful with the transparency and to be aware of the GDPR if that is projected and so on. So I think the people in Humanet are very eager to work with the patients group on a better use of AI. And I went to a very scientific session, and that's also one of my main points. And there were 3 posters that were presented, and it were 3 phase 2 studies and for 3 different types of lupus. The first one was, I cannot pronounce it, ianalumab, and it is a phase 2 study, and it's have durable benefits. It's gradual improvement of response and persistent efficacy. And the other one that is for lupus nephritis, that's obinutuzumab, anti-CD20 EIG1 antibody, and that is also very positive, and that is done by Furry in the USA, and he was very, very, very kind, because he thanked the patients who took the second biopsy of the kidney, and he was very grateful that they did it, because it was very it was hard to ask them to have the second biopsy. And the third trial that is also phase 2 is the Willow long-term exposure trial for CLE and SLE with cutaneous lupus involvement, and the results are promising, and they are testing it now to be confirmed in a phase 3 LO1 and LO1-2 trials. And then I was dead after those 3 readings. And another thing is very interesting, and I think should have taken Greta with me, because it was about the the influence of healthcare on the environment. And it was very, how do you say it? I was not happy when I left, but it was like what we as patients use and what the doctors use is 4.6% responsible of the global net emission of CO2 in the environment, and 50% of that is to use for medication and medical devices. And as you should be aware that a lot of material in the hospitals contain PFAS. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. And they are very eager to have a balance in excellence in care and sustainability to have a less effect on the environment. And I have a lot more, but I think my time will end now. And
I think we all have too much to say.
yeah, I can go on for hours, but I will end here. I had to say, oh yeah, one thing I want to mention. I went out for coffee and a drink, and who I met, one of the dermatologists I worked in a project, and we had a nice talk. And then she had to run off, and I had to run off. But I had a nice talk with her, and I was also everywhere and nowhere. And
Same as
thank you for
always.
having me again.
Of course, Marie, thank you for going. And I really like that you said that about the coffee chat, because that's also part of EULAR. Networking outside the sessions, meeting people you work with, which you do research projects with. It's so exciting. And so it's great to see people from a different point of view than just researchers and patients. We are all human beings. That was really nice. Thank you. Now I want to go to Francesca, also one of the more experienced people. Could you give us your highlights, please?
Sorry, I was just searching the mouse to unmute myself, but somebody arrives before me. I think it was Zoe. So, yes, not experienced, elderly. It's a correct word in any case. Or both together.
Both.
I think for me this EULAR was a different experience because I was jumping from very different things that some of them I've never experienced. So it's both a participation to some speech, but also in some EULAR study group. So I was there with two heads somehow. So it was not so easy, or three head, because there was also the Italian one. So it was not so easy to
navigate
to everything too much. But in any case, one of the group, it was the one on cardiovascular risk, that I believe it's not, we don't talk about it too much, and we should do it more, because we have already heard some of the intervention during this night, and it could be a problem for us. So understanding, especially for APS person, but also just for lupus patient, one presentation, it was only related to lupus nephritis. That is also a risk factor for it. You heard about the presentation of Alessia Lunno on the survey that has been done on severe risk as the patient feel, and whether they talk or not with their doctor and so on. So I think it's a topic that should be of more interest for patient. And I enjoy to be in a specific session on elderly people, because we normally talk about the minority that are normally men from one side, or young people, because for sure for young people is a problem when you get the diagnosis when you are young, when you are still in time of working and so on. But when you become elderly, you have more problem that is not related to have a lupus or any other rheumatic diseases, but that adds to the problem. So the sum of them could be more difficult to manage for the person. So I think this is also a thematic different from the other, but that should be taken into consideration. And the third point, we have talking about it in this webinar so much, is the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is everywhere, but during the discussion with the young rheumatologist, there was a lot of also a discussion about if we can trust the AI. For sure, it's there, so we must manage, but there is still a lot of hallucination. So Lupus GPT, for example, is for sure an example in which we try to avoid, we avoid the hallucination, of the artificial intelligence. But in other case, it's really a problem, and also maybe just it was a discussion on the social impact of artificial intelligence, of the young people that start now to study, and maybe they will completely forget how it was to search things alone, and not just as soon as you have a question going to the artificial intelligence and ask for any answers.
Yeah, being a bit critical. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit critical. So another point of to be under the spot.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Francesca. I think it was really good to have you there as a senior person, also looking into what happens after you are not so young anymore. It almost becomes a comorbidity of a kind to be elder with lupus, right? Thank you. So next up is Andre. Remember to unmute yourself, Andre. Yes.
This year, EULAR, was an amazing event. And don't believe Zoe that said it was an exhausting one. It's just an event. We have a lot of effort, a lot of belief to ourselves, and a trust to Lupus Europe. So from EULAR 2026, I am taking with me 3 highlights. Firstly, I felt a strong sense of hope because science is moving towards treatments that are not only control the disease, but can actually change the way the disease progresses. For us, this means a brighter future, of course. Secondly, what really touched me was the energy and the willingness to collaborate around conditions that often don't have the space they deserve. I felt there is a real interest in listening to patients' needs and working together towards more targeted solutions. Thirdly, the voice of patient was heard clearly and meaningfully, and it made me feel that we are truly part of the solution and the change. Finally, what touched me deeply was a sense of community, because being in the same room with doctors, researchers, patients, pharmaceutical companies, all together working towards a shared goal shows clearly that we are not alone on this journey. So these are the 3 highlights I'm bringing with me from London. And of course, thank Lupus Europe for offering me this opportunity once again.
Thank you so much, Manfred. And thank you for sending all those videos. You were amazing.
yeah.
I think you were the one brought back most videos of all. So thank you so much for that.
Thank me as well.
And then we move on to Ricky. Could you give us your feedback?
Sure. So, couple of my feedback points. Other people have covered them. So I may, so one of them was going to be about Lupus GPT. We've spoken a lot about that. So what I wanted to touch on was just kind of carry on some of the points that Zoe made about, I suppose, access to information, but also being able to have doctor information dialogue with physicians. So one of the things we were promoting to doctors and researchers was our patient cards, where, and for those of you who are members, we'll share these in our next update, and we've done these in many European languages, where patients can take them along and they can identify kind of the symptoms they were experiencing, and that's done kind of color coded, and there's a picture of a man and a woman depending on your gender, and you can complete all those. Zoe's just pop them into that, and I think
very efficient.
Very efficient, absolutely. I think for me, I had plenty of discussions with nurses and doctors about how great they were. And obviously, this is work that was started by NVLE in the Netherlands, and the amazing work. And we've just added that European flair to it and different languages. So I think for me, the takeaway there was there is lots of information out there, some great things about AI, but also we really need to reach those patients that may be underrepresented in our patient organizations and patient groups, and how do we reach those? And I think the key way for me was through doctors who see them on a regular basis, and they were really really excited by those resources. So I think that was one of the real takeaways from me, and how positively that was received. I was also I had the privilege of sharing a poster presentation on behalf of Lupus Europe, but more importantly, the patients that took part in that panel. So it was a mental health research panel, and it was about 8 patients living with lupus. They talked about their experiences using timelines, group discussions, and creative exercises. Excuse me. What they told us and what they told doctors and clinicians by me speaking at EULAR was very powerful. Mental health is not separate from lupus. It is part of the whole journey. Key moments, such as getting a diagnosis, feeling unheard by a doctor, can shape how someone feels for years. Many patients still do not get regular mental health support as part of their lupus care. What helps the most is being listened to, being believed, and having access to peer support. And obviously, as organisations across Europe, we certainly provide that peer support. So it was a real honour to share those research findings, and I had lots of clinicians and other patient organisations come and speak to us afterwards, speak to me afterwards about the research and where they could find out more, and they were really interested in the techniques that we'd used, and their findings really resonated with what their patients are telling them as well in other rheumatology diseases. And again, I suppose when you go towards the end, there is there's some repeating topics. I think for me, Jeanette and others have mentioned about CAR T cell therapy. For me, the future of lupus treatment is really exciting. We're entering a new era for lupus treatment. So as well as CAR T, we're seeing potentially new biological treatments and targeted therapies and innovative approaches to managing the immune system. So there's still a lot more research to do, but I think it definitely fills us with hope. And 2 kind of smaller points that I think were equally just as relevant. Firstly, I was really advocating for men with lupus across the whole Congress. I felt that was really important as we are a minority, and making sure that the male voice is heard, and kind of some of the work that we've been doing in Lupus Europe about supporting men with lupus and supporting our member organizations, engaging men into their patient organizations. And then finally, we had some really healthy discussions with clinicians about skin manifestations of lupus. And again, I felt that was a little bit at the more forefront of some of the more recent congresses that I've been going to. I think that's really pleasing because we know how damaging skin manifestations or CLE can have upon people, men and women. And I was talking about the male experience living with clinicians about how important it is to capture that information and kind of the feelings from men. So I think the other side of it was also we know that lupus is more prevalent in Afro-Caribbean, Caribbean, African, and South Asian and Asian populations. So again, it was really important, particularly in the skin discussions, about how those manifestations are different and how they present is different as well. And that is mirrored in quite many different aspects of lupus. And it can manifest differently in those from different descents. So I think it was really important to have some of those discussions, and I think it was really hopeful. So yeah, I think I left London really excited for the future, and I'm really pleased to see kind of the patient community together and talking about their experiences and listening to the amazing research that's going on and most importantly feeding that back to you across Europe. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ricky. It was so great having you there and giving the male perspective as well, and also so many other wonderful things you brought forward, both in sessions but also in meetings. So thank you very much for that feedback. Now, let me just check. Lastly, but not least, I think we have Sabina. And if I forgot anyone, please speak up. But Sabina, you're on the spotlight now.
Wow. Yeah, it was my, let me think, my third EULAR. And I want to encourage everyone to take a look and think about, is that something I can do? You have all heard us present in English today, but what I take with me from EULAR this year is actually it was new, right? The first time with subtitles or live translations.
Yeah, live translation was the first time. It was a trial they had.
Yeah. It was really intriguing because you could scan a QR code and join the session in a live translation, either listening to it or just reading. And I think that's something that can make the Congress even more open, especially for patients that aren't that literate is maybe not the right word, but medically literate. And have a chance to join and learn more. And I think Anne-Marie said it, I had some time zone issues as well, so I apologize again. I was meant to go into a scientific session, I think Anne-Marie's scientific session, and I couldn't because I was double booked. And that's the other thing. It's a Congress. It's a place where you can connect and learn and meet people. And it's always something new to learn. And it was it's always a new experience, but it's also coming back to meet friends and connect and yeah, start and continue relationships and deepen these. And I'm kind of proud in a way to represent Lupus Germany inside Lupus Europe, because I took a quick look and we had a project nearly 15 years ago, if I'm not completely stupid, that already had cardiovascular and arteriosclerosis at heart. So, and
They were the front runners.
yeah, and seeing how important it is to be digital again. Back when that project started, there was actually an online portal and a study, but it was closed down after the study because people weren't ready yet. But seeing how important AI and digital is, I think we should take a look and go back and maybe revive it. So this is what I'm taking with me, and I'm really grateful for the connections actually also Lupus Europe has opened up for me and our organization. And yeah, thank you for having me again after inviting myself 2 years in a row.
See, that's the really good thing. Sabine was one of our guests, as I call them. So Sabine did a lot of work, even though we didn't invite you, you invited yourself. And that's wonderful because we really love to have you in our group, Sabine.
Yes, and I'm so excited. This is the one thing I'm taking with me because I'm really excited to welcome you in Berlin next year, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
And this is why I said the thing about the translations. Please don't be scared. If you have the opportunity to come to the Congress, please check it out and come say hi at the Lupus Europe booth. There's always someone there who can connect you with either your country organization or someone that can help you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabina. And I'm so sorry because I realized I forgot Marina. Marina.
Oh, it's all right.
I don't know. You were lost on my screen.
No, it's fine. But
Go ahead.
my EULAR started very nicely from the first day because I was very honored, and I did a presentation of an abstract that the Lupus Europe Youth Group had submitted, and we were very thankful that EULAR had accepted about sex and lupus that we did with Cristiana Santos. And it was very nice, and I really loved the feedback that I got later. And from what I understood, the audience was actually paying attention, and I hope they were agreeing with our key points and what we thought was important from that webinar.
I heard a lot of people saying good things about your presentation, so well done. Really amazing work.
It was very nice. I'm very happy about the work that we did with the abstract. It was I was really happy with it, with the whole group. Also, I really loved the sessions that I attended, not just the speeches, but also the poster tours. They were very nice. I was very happy to attend Ricky's presentation. It was really nice to see so many different patient representations. I think in each session that I went, there was some patient representation, which was amazing to see. It was the last day. There was, even though there were very few people because of the closing ceremony, but there was one presentation that I was really fascinated. It was David Bakawi, and he talked about a topic that's called muscle build strength, and he was talking about rehabilitation of bedridden patients and ways to keep their muscles active. And he was doing it with a very smart way. I think he was putting some sensors, I believe, and he was making a game that had different reflection times according to the severity of the patient, because those people were usually elderly. And it was such a creative way. Okay, it's not just for lupus or rheumatoid disease patients. I think it's broader for all kind of patients, but it was so nice. I was really happy to see that. And lastly, everyone talked about, I was so happy about seeing so many positive feedback about the Lupus GPT and also the consultation cards. It was so nice. I really loved my time in the booth, which, to be fair, I did not expect that I would enjoy as much, but it was so nice to interact with other people, other patients. So many patients know about Lupus Europe, even though some of them were not even lupus patients themselves, but they knew about Lupus Europe, which made me extremely happy. Not all the physicians would actually, I was a bit surprised, but not all the physicians knew about Lupus Europe, even though some were Europeans, but they learned.
Did you educate them enough?
I did, and then actually they used a lot of the materials from Lupus GPT and the consultation cards, and they say that they actually like it. There was one representative from an Asian organization, if I'm not mistaken, and she said that they're trying to create something similar to our consultation cards, which was very nice to hear. And yeah, it was so nice to talk with all the different patient representatives to make connections with different physicians or healthcare professionals. My God, they were so great. Like people that I had interviewed with, they were so sweet and so helpful, and they had so much willingness to help with our community. And I remember a remark from 2 women that they were like, oh, so nervous because they wanted to help with the patient organizations, and they were actually more nervous about the patient feedback they could get, but than the physician feedback.
Yeah.
It was so sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very nice experience.
Thank you, Marina. I'm so glad I didn't forget you totally. And thank you so much for being there as well. A small bird has told me that our brand new volunteer, DJ, also would like to say a few words. Is that right, DJ?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, good.
Yeah. So this was my first ever meeting with the Lupus Europe people, and this was also my first conference where I spoke about lupus ever. So it was a very fun experience. I had a blast. I learned a lot, especially like I'm generally a very nervous person, so I learned how to speak to researchers without like thinking too much of what they think, which was a great experience. I scored 4 interviews. You'll probably see them later on
Great.
YouTube.
Mhm.
And my biggest takeaway was the fact that non-invasive methods of detecting lupus were being talked about. So obviously biopsies are such a major issue with lupus. So I felt incredibly seen when people talked about non-invasive methods where you don't really
Yeah.
have to get that needle inside your
No
body.
needles.
It was
Yeah, exactly.
extremely nice to hear that. I hope they do that and bring it here in Europe and in the UK, wherever. So that was really good. And obviously, meeting everyone was just fantastic. I loved talking to the doctors, the clinicians, and just everyone that you see on screen right now. It was incredibly fun, and I hope I get more opportunities like this. So thank you so much, Lupus Europe.
Thank you so much, DJ, for helping us and being on the ground. It was amazing having you there. I think we all learned something from you as well. And it was great having a new person and having you join our family. You are part of our family now. So you will definitely be there next time as well, I'm sure. So thank you everyone for all the feedback you've brought. I hope everyone at home sees the enthusiasm, the energy, and all the things that we hopefully brought back to you. I hope you enjoy them. I will also say that EULAR is a scientific meeting. You can sign up as a patient. It's very, very cheap to sign up. So I can only encourage you to do that. And you can actually still watch some of the presentations online on demand. So sign up. I think it's 25 euros for a patient ticket. Sign up and then watch some of the presentations you've just heard about. It's really worth it. Of course, nothing beats being there in person, which is amazing, but also being able to see it at home afterwards is worth a lot. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and have a wonderful evening.